This is episode 15 of Full Throttle, the Presidio Group's automotive industry podcast. I'm your host, Jason Stein, Presidio's managing director and host of SiriusXM's Cars and Culture on Business Channel 132. On a monthly basis, Full Throttle serves as the industry's meeting point for great conversations with leaders across the automotive world.
Really, I think we're coming out of it now. I think that the impact of COVID, the factory closures, the employee issues, the worldwide chip shortage, all of that, I think we're pretty much behind that. And I think what I'm seeing and what I'm believing is that our inventory is not back to where it was at 60 days supply, but we're at 20 to 30 days at most of our franchises. And I feel like the manufacturers are going to try to find an equilibrium in production where they can still produce cars, of course, grow their brand, but keep it at a rate that's just slightly below demand.
Their story is a remarkable one, the personification of the American dream, a single business taken on with risk, putting everything on the line with sheer will, determination, and a spirit that makes the impossible very possible. And the Rita Case story is one of possibilities of a single motorcycle dealership that turned into a chance to become an original Honda dealer in the United States, to taking risks on more brands that would become larger and larger as the Rita Case Automotive Group became a leader that would set world records for sales. Rick and Rita Case are the epitome of entrepreneurs. The story would turn out to be one of legend. The Case has built an extraordinary reputation for selling volume, setting sales records, and building an empire on the business side, as well as for charities. All the while, Rick and Rita Case were the perfect complement. She came from a California family that owned a single foreign car repair shop, and Rick came from Honda car and motorcycle programs in Ohio. Both had an equal passion for the business, and both had a strong work ethic. They were committed to being the best and the biggest, full stop. Rita, the COO, oversaw the parts and service department as well as financial operations, and Rick ran vehicle sales, created the marketing, and planned the inventory with the CEO title. To grow their businesses, they could not afford to buy dealerships. Instead, they applied for franchises that had never been sold in the U.S. They moved to Florida to open their Acura and Hyundai dealerships and were awarded Hyundai in Atlanta. They built 3 dealerships from the ground up and opened on time for the franchise debut in the United States in 1986 with Hyundai. They achieved their goal and became the largest volume dealer in the U.S. for the brands that they covered. They worked tirelessly side by side to build the Rita Case Automotive Group, which today operates 14 dealerships in South Florida and in Atlanta. And their goal never changed, to be number one, which they achieved. They hold the world's volume records for some of their brands and are in the top volume nationally for most of the brands annually, as well as the top national award winners for customer satisfaction. After Rick passed away in 2020, Rita moved in to serve as the president, CEO, and owner of the nation's largest retail auto group, owned and operated by a woman. A remarkable retailer, entrepreneur, and business leader. Today, it's her story on Full Throttle.
Hi, this is Rita Case. This is Presidio's podcast, Full Throttle.
So good to be with my friend again. It's been a long time. Perhaps it's any amount of time away from Rita is a long time because you're always such a pleasure to be with. Welcome in to the broadcast.
Thank you very much, Jason. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Unbelievably, let's start off. It's been 3 years since Rick's passing.
That's right.
I can't imagine that.
September of a very short bout with cancer, September 2020.
And I know that it was your ambition at the time to keep things running exactly the way that he would want them run. And lo and behold, here we are. We sit here at the end of 2023, and life is good for you in business. Tell me about that.
Well, Jason, Rick and I were married over 40 years. And basically, I was a student of Rick from the day we got married. He mentored me. I did everything I could to, support his goals. And I learned a lot from him, and we built the business together. So it wasn't hard for me to, continue the operations. And so I've done that. I love it. My team stayed with me. And of course, my goal and my passion is to keep Rick's name at the top. Rick will be a legacy in the automotive industry, and I want to make sure that that goes on through my lifetime as well.
Yeah, in fact, you didn't lose a single individual on the team.
I didn't. All my team has stayed with me.
Incredible. And you and I were discussing off air how well you're doing in terms of sales with the various brands that you have. Run that down for me again.
Well,
It's
you
really
know,
impressive.
Rick's goal always was anybody that knew him close, of course, all of the team and all the manufacturers as well. He always wore his number one pin, and his goal was to be number one at everything, whether volume, whether it was operational excellence, whether it was fundraising to raise the most for any of the organizations in the community to give a hand up. And that's what my goal has, and that's what I promised him when he was passing away. Obviously, we're very close. I told him, Rick, I'm going to make sure that I try to beat your records, but if not, I'm going to keep your name right at the top. And we're the number one Volkswagen dealer volume in the country. We're number two for Honda. We're 3 and 4 with our 2 Hyundai stores in volume in the country, and our Kia store is number 8. So my goal is that every one of our franchises at some point will be number one in the country. And everybody needs a goal. Everybody needs a passion. Everybody needs a purpose. And that's my purpose, to support Rick's legacy.
Wow. Unbelievable. Congratulations on all of that. And what have you learned in those 3 years? What have you learned in the transition?
Well, what I've learned is that we have a brand. Rita Case is a brand in South Florida and in Atlanta. And we have a culture, and that culture of treating every customer as we would our best friend, which is the title of the book that we wrote back in 2012 at our 50th anniversary as a car dealer. That is the staying power. That is the foundation, and it can be used with any business. But going through, the COVID, the pandemic, the supply chain issues, the chip shortages, all the things that we've been through the last 3 years since Rick passed away, it's almost like a perfect storm. What else could have happened? We lost Rick. We had a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic. We had a disruption in the auto industry with the chip shortage and the supply chain. I mean, we persevered, and we're stronger than ever because our culture and because of our brand.
Yeah, it's so true. Very well said. What's your view on the state of the industry today as we head into the fourth quarter? You're so close with all these manufacturers. You've always had your finger on exactly what's going on within the industry. Where are we on inventory and maybe even consumer resilience?
Yeah, well, really, I think we're coming out of it now. I think that the impact of COVID, the factory closures, the employee issues, the worldwide chip shortage, all of that, I think we're pretty much behind that. And I think what I'm seeing, or what I'm believing, is that our inventory is not back to where it was at 60 days supply, but we're at 20 to 30 days at most of our franchises. And I feel like the manufacturers are going to try to find an equilibrium in production where they can still produce cars, of course, grow their brand, but keep it at a rate that's just slightly below demand. And this is, I think, their purpose is, and what I believe is that they're going to do this to keep from going back into the deep incentives. They'll be able to reduce their advertising costs. They'll have less inventory holding costs, because keeping the dealers at that, still needing inventory, wanting inventory, desiring inventory, we're not going to turn any of the allocations down. So we're going to keep the ports completely empty, because we need every car that we can get. And we know that if we turn down cars, it's probably going to negatively affect future allocations. So that's what I'm feeling about inventory right now. And I have enough on the lot to, do business today, but not a lot of extra. And as far as consumer resilience, we are a country that is very resilient. Americans are, America is. And even though we've had obstacles the last 3 years, challenges, disruptions, we've always adopted, we've recovered, and we grow stronger. So, and I believe there's a couple of effects that of course, COVID as well, but the fact that we were selling these cars for the last 2 years is at a premium. I'm a little bit worried about the future of the leasing percentages. I'm in a leasing market down here in South Florida, and we were like 70-75% leases, and like overnight we dropped to 25% because of the premium prices that the cars were being sold at, and we started to get on parity with a finance payment. And I believe that in the future, we're going to need to be watching this very carefully, because the cars that are coming back are going to have very high negative equity, I'm assuming. And they're not going to be, we're not going to be seeing that we're going to be able to lease a customer. We're going to need that extended finance terms in order to right size the deal. So I am kind of predicting that leasing isn't going to come back at the same level as what we had pre-pandemic or pre this situation. And that's going to have an impact on, loyalty, because we know that lease customers release at a higher percentage the same brand than a financed customer. I think that that's going to affect our CPO units, because we do rely on our lease returns for our CPO inventory. And I think the manufacturers are going to have to really come up with some incentives to get loyalty back to their brand. We've lost loyalty. These manufacturers have lost some loyalty because people bought whatever they could find the last 2 years. They looked for inventory, and they looked for affordable payments. So that's kind of how I'm seeing the future. I think the future's bright for the car business. I think we have a lot of pent-up demand. We had a lot of customers buy out their leases, and we had a lot of customers keep their cars because the payments were just too high the last 2 years. And now with the interest rates going up, the payments are still high, even if the sale prices are going down. We're still talking about a 37% increase in the payment from 2019 to 2023. So that payment is a consideration that our customers have with the inflation, as well as affecting the impact of a higher payment. So that's kind of how I'm seeing I don't really see anything right now, I'll be honest, Jason. We are selling everything that we can get. The fourth quarter looks bright for us. Of course, we are in Florida and Atlanta, so we have a bit of a recession-proof economy. But so I'm not seeing that right now, any impact of all the inflation, interest rates, or even the inventory coming back. I think it's been really positive.
You can't have a conversation on this program without talking about electrification. So what's your view on it?
Yeah. Well, again, we're in Florida and we're in Georgia, so there hasn't been a real impact of people desiring the EVs like California and some of the other ZEV states. But it seems to be coming at a more rapid pace than I expected. If you asked me this a year ago, I would say, hey, we're looking at 2030 to have really kind of a momentum with EVs. But with the legislation and how much they're putting on EV, and they're requiring the manufacturers to come up with the battery technology, the battery plants here in the United States, I think that my prediction of 2030 is probably a little bit too far out. But I also don't think it's going to be more than 25%. I probably have a lot of people disagreeing with me, but I'm thinking 25% by 2030. Remember, this is 2024 already in my mind.
Yes, of course.
And Honda's only coming out with the one car right now. We just got back from the Honda convention, and they have the Prologue coming, and they have the ZDX with Acura, but there's not a lot, on the plate coming out anytime before 2030.
But one of your brands, Volkswagen, as a result of various factors, is all in. I mean, they are going to be. They have stated their claim that they're going all electric, and in South Florida with events such as hurricanes and also a consumer that's probably a little less interested in EVs than other parts of the country, as you correctly said. How do you get through that?
Well, the inventory is going to be the way that we do it. If there's a demand for EVs, there's going to be products out there to buy from all the manufacturers. If there isn't demand in our market, then we're not going to be inventorying it. Yeah. The people are going to inventory where they can sell the cars. And so far, we have not seen even momentum going towards the EV.
Right.
Actually, our oldest cars on the lot and our highest day supply are cars that are all electric.
Right. Yeah. No, we're seeing that too around the country. Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out, Rita.
We got to get the battery technology. It's got to get cheaper. We've got to have more charging stations. We've got to have fast chargers. It's all coming though with the 800 volt, and the going away from maybe a liquid lithium type of technology to the solid state. It's going to rapidly evolve, but it's going to have to evolve a lot more, I think, before it's actually a volume product.
Let's talk about consolidation, maybe the buy-sell market that's been as hot as sales have been over the course of the last few years. And I know the team at Presidio well, George Carolus and Brody Cobb. Tell me your views on consolidation and maybe where blue sky values are, market trends.
Yeah, well, the buy sell, we're all reading about it, of course. And of course, remember, I'm in South Florida. So, I mean, some of the biggest values
yes.
that these franchises have sold for, we're all just like, what? But yeah, the buy sell is going to continue. I think it's going to be very active. And it may not be the same exact values as we saw the last, year, because of interest rates being higher, impacts, profits are going down just a little bit. But I absolutely think the momentum of consolidation will continue for decades, with regional players starting to dominate each major market. And then eventually those regional players will possibly be acquired by national players. And I know there's framework agreements that we were always thinking were going to kind of come into play, where there'd be limited number of franchise acquisitions by the same owner. But I'm seeing that the OEMs are getting more comfortable with the idea of having fewer, larger dealers. And we even read about how the repeat franchise sales to the same buyer. So I'm seeing that, in the bigger markets, that consolidation is going to continue. And with the industries having 3 straight years of record profits and the dealers sitting on a lot of cash, it's estimated that the industry right now has collectively earned $200 billion, Jason, that's with a B, since the pandemic. And so much of that has not been really, deployed on any acquisitions. We're just sitting on a lot of cash. And so even though interest rates are up, it doesn't seem to be affecting the valuations. Plus the earnings have remained double digits since the pandemic levels. We're down a little bit this year. We're down about 20 to 25%, and I think that's what everybody we're seeing that. But the blue sky values, I think, are going to really remain high, and because of that. And listen, the car business is a great investment. It returns superior than the S&P or even other stock indices. So it's a great return on investment. And we're seeing players like Berkshire Hathaway and some of these other hedge funds and venture capitalists supplying money to great dealers to acquire more of these franchises and more of these dealers, because the return on investment, I mean, pre-pandemic, the S&P was like 2018, the S&P was like a -6 and the car business was plus 23. And this year, the S&P is doing better for sure. It's, I think, 15 or 18%, while the car business is 33% return on investment. So it's a great business to be investing in. And I think we're going to continue to see big players put big money in to get dealerships in the right markets. And there's plenty of sellers because they're seeing risk on the horizon. They're seeing where are the OEMs going with EVs, like you were talking about. What direction are they going? Are they going to try to, like Scout, or Sony, with Honda, they're going to try to pair it off and sell it direct. Sellers are seeing that, man, can I go it alone with all these big groups coming together? And some dealers, they don't really have a viable succession plan. And another thing that I know is on a lot of dealers' minds is the expectations of the manufacturers wanting really major cost and disruption in new facilities or requiring substantial remodels. So I think all of that is driving buy-sell transactions. And It's estimated that, 3 to 4 times higher right now, pre-pandemic numbers, that isn't going to come down, that we're going to see
Right.
the multiples 3 to 4 times higher. And if that continues, any dealer that was on the fence is jumping off the fence, and they're going like, I got to take this deal today. They're exiting now.
Are you a buyer or a seller in that market?
I am a hold. I am happy with
Hold.
where I'm at.
Mhm.
I am not interested in selling at any price, to be honest, because, well, I'm in a unique situation. This is all I've done my whole life. My dad was a car dealer. My dad was the first Honda dealer in the United States, dealer number one. And I was the first person to sell a Honda car. So, I mean, my life has been the car business. I was married to a fabulous car dealer, an entrepreneur, an amazing marketer. And so I've had 40 years of great education. I love what I do. I wake up every morning with the ambition to be number one, to be recognized as an excellent operator, and to be the largest female, owner of a privately held dealer group in the United States. So I have no interest in selling, and I don't have any interest in buying either. I am in a perfect sweet spot, Jason. I really feel like I'm in a perfect sweet spot. I'm $2 billion. I'm the number one dealer, or in the top 5 of most of the brands I sell. I feel like I'm winning the game. Why would I want to, get out of the sport?
Sure. Yeah. No, makes total sense. You mentioned marketing. So one final thing on that. Rita Case's stores have always had unique marketing plans and ways of going about business. Right? What?
Well,
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean,
Rick is in my head every single day,
right?
Saying, you got to come up with a new idea. You got to come up with a new idea. And I've had an idea since the pandemic, and since Rick has been gone. I'm like, I got to come up with something myself. I got to prove to people that I learned something from Rick after 40 years. And so, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, one of the main customer complaints has been it takes too long to buy a car in a dealership. And during the pandemic, all the asset type, retail businesses were forced to come up with new strategies, new sales, and new delivery processes. Furniture stores, grocery stores, restaurants, household, clothing stores. Really needed, a new delivery platform. And as we know, Amazon exploded. You had Instacart for groceries. You had Uber Eats, and all those different online and also deliverables happened during the pandemic so that businesses could survive. So before the pandemic, though, Jason, we were the first pilot for Roadster, the online purchasing platform. That was before pandemic. We have always known that we had to come up with a way to deliver cars faster. And so we were the pilot for that for all of our stores. And of course, that expanded. Then when the pandemic hit, we had already had it on our platform. So we went forward with making it very successful, and we enjoyed experimenting with that. But I still needed a solution. Now the pandemic's over and people are coming out, and I wanted a solution. So what I've come up with is my Rita Case creative marketing idea, is that we launched a year ago, just over a year ago, the Rita Case 90-minute guarantee, or your first payment is on us. So, clearly, we pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, we've all been wanting to make it faster. And I had my team's commitment for years. Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. But, there's a difference between wanting and guaranteeing. And once I put out that we were going to guarantee it, I went from wishing us to change to, achieving change. So that's my latest creative marketing idea, is that we are advertising and we are succeeding in a 90-minute guarantee, or your first payments on us, in and out.
Wow. Yeah, always something that Rita Case Automotive Group is on the cutting edge of marketing and the way for you to stay and pursue your number one goal. It is so good to talk to you again, Rita. It is great to catch up. I know that you're going to be at NAMAD, and I know that you'll be at NADA. We'll see you around, is the point. But it's great to see you again.
Thank you very much, Jason. It was an honor that you asked me to be a part of your Presidio Group podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon, Rita.
Okay, bye.
Thanks again to my guest, Rita Case, and thanks for listening to Full Throttle. Come back to us later in the month for our next interview on this platform. And suggestions, you can email me at jstein@thepresidiogroup.com. And of course, you can learn more about the Presidio Group at thepresidiogroup.com. Follow us on LinkedIn as well. Thanks again for listening to Full Throttle.